Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Trudy Wood, and I am the Marketing Manager here at Veritas Australia and New Zealand. Thank you for joining us today for our special presentation featuring Backup Exec. We're going to begin very shortly, but firstly, just a little housekeeping. So we've got all lines muted at the moment, and this session is being recorded. And we will make this recording and presentation available to you after the event. We'll also be answering your questions during this presentation. So if you have a question, you're most welcome to post it in the Q&A window. And importantly, just a reminder that lunch is on us. So for those of you who've opted in during registration and stay on with us for the next 45 minutes, you'll be receiving your bonus $20 Uber Eats e-gift card from us. So importantly, stay with us and look out for an email that you will receive in the next 24 hours from Veritas Australia containing your e-voucher. Okay, so now without further ado, I'm very excited to introduce to you today our special presenter, all the way from sunny Florida, Veritas's Global Technology Specialist for Backup Exec, and famous Master of Fun, Brian White. Take it away, Brian.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Trudy. That was an awesome introduction, right? And I appreciate it. And I love to come and talk with you folks in Australia and New Zealand. I know I'm virtual this time. I have been in the country there, and I had a great time there. So hopefully everything happens and clears up. I'll be back over in Australia and New Zealand sometime soon. But today, hey, it's here to talk about Veritas SaaS Backup and Backup Exec. Data protection as it should be, simple, secure, and unified. As Ms. Trudy mentioned, if you have any questions, please put them in the QA box. I will pause as I go through the session and will answer as many as I can. And then also at the end, we'll also have a Q&A session. So let's sit back, let's have some fun and enjoy. And before I get started, right, one of the things that I look at here is we just released the latest release of Backup Exec 21, VSR 21, and SaaS Backup. So at this point, I have like for 5 seconds, everybody gets to do their celebration dance that we have just released this product. Ready? Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. All right. That was my celebration dance, y'all. All right. So I hope everybody liked that. So let's jump in and talk about the things of why you guys and gals are here. All right. It's about money. All right. You all are running businesses and your business wants to grow and generate revenue and continue growing your money. And that is one of the best things that I believe that everybody likes to talk about. So I will be talking about revenue and money throughout this presentation. But there's always some threats to your revenue, right? One is increasing costs, shrinking budgets. That's always there, right? What about the rising threats and regulations? You have to think of those. Snowballing complexity and even evolving landscape for the technology. So let's dig real quick into each one of these, right? So if we think about the increasing costs and shrinking budgets, data is growing all the time. 175 zettabytes of data by 2025. What is everybody going to do with those, right? Where's it going to be, right? Is it important to them, right? All these things come into play and you have to figure out, how important is that to me, right? And did my budget shrink or did my budget grow, but my data is changing? So we have to think of that. What are we going to do, all right? How do we manage that? And then, rising threats and regulations. How many people are prepared for ransomware attacks right now today on this call? How many? Hopefully everybody, right? But the rising threats is just ransomware, but I believe you guys have suffered some security attacks, right? Those come into play as well. Anytime anyone is threatening your data, that's a problem. And as you can, someone back in 2019 lost $40 million. That's a lot of money. That's US dollars, by the way, sorry, but that's a lot of money. I don't ever want to lose $40 million. I want to have $40 million, but not lose it, right? So you got to think of those things. And then when you think about more security and compliance regulations, is your data secure? And not only just secure, but are you holding the right amount of data for the right amount of time where you don't get fined? Industry regulations are changing all the time, so you need to make sure that the data that you have is the right data being kept, and there are no blind spots, meaning like you don't have data that's 10 years old sitting on a system somewhere that could cost you. That's important. And then when you think about this snowballing complexity, as your business grows, where are you putting that? Where are you putting that data? Are your technologies changing, right? All these things come into play. 58% complexity limits their ability to realize the value of their data because they don't know where it all is. It's a problem. And then evolving technology, hyperconverged systems, multiple cloud, government clouds, all these things come into play. And as you can see, people are having to maneuver and move their data and their operations into different areas. We're all in the cloud right now because we're all working virtual. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes we just don't have that physical connection all the time, but the data still has to go and your business still has to run. Ah, that is it. So these threats to the revenue that come into play, you got to do something with them, right? For increasing costs, you want to reduce your costs and you want to reduce your complexity. When you think of threats and regulations, you want to be able to manage your business risks real easy. When you think of snowball and complexity and all these data just moving in different places, you want to be confident it's just going to work. And then when you think about the evolving technology, you want to be prepared for the future because of change. Now, all of these things sit in a place that I can talk about a great solution that can help mitigate these risks. And that is what I call Veritas Backup Exec. BE21, it is the simple, secure, and unified data protection solution for virtual environments, physical environments, and cloud. And as you can see here, this is the Wheel of Fortune. Again, I'm staying on that money thing, right? The Wheel of Fortune. It talks about how BackupZet can protect Microsoft workloads, virtual workloads, Linux, and Unix workloads because people have asked for us to bring back Unix and BackupZet, so we did. And then remote offices, everybody's remote. You still got to protect the data. Backup Exec is great for that. Disaster recovery. And then when you think about the cloud, private, hybrid, public clouds, not just AWS and Microsoft, but everybody, Alibaba, Hitachi, IBM, you name it. We could protect and work with those cloud environments. We can also do all of this data protection and globally dedupe that data to help save on storage costs, right? That's important. Now, all this can be centrally managed from one console. You don't need multiple consoles to manage your backup exec environment. We make it simple and streamlined. Now, you don't have to take it from me, even though I have my Brian Said So shirt on, right? You can take it from me, but how about you take it from a backup exec 21 customer? With the latest features, backup exec is delivering the confidence to business that they can recover from a ransomware attack. I'm really impressed by the breadth of features being delivered with the upcoming version, because he was a beta at first, multi-cloud capabilities, disaster recovery to the cloud, and accelerator for backups. Man, I could actually stop and just let this customer do the presentation for me, right? But let's move on because I do have other stuff. So let's talk about some of the highlighted features of Backup Exec. Here I'm going to talk about security, cloud performance, and then a little bit more. But security is real important. Ransomware, as I mentioned, is reaping havoc across the country. It's costing people billions and billions of dollars, right? And when you think about ransomware, you have this option. Am I going to pay or am I going to not pay? That means, am I going to take the chance of not getting my data back, or do I care to get my data back, or am I going to pay to get my data back? Well, it's happening every 11 seconds right now. Well, what we decide to do is we're going to help you where you don't have to pay. Wow. Wow, we do it with our ransomware resilience feature that's in Backup Exec, where we actually harden the disk stores that you send your backup jobs to. Backup Exec is the only process that can delete it, modify it, move it, encrypt it. All other processes that try to access that data on that disk store are rejected. The other way that we're doing is even the Backup Exec server is protected from external code injection. So we're protecting it in multiple ways, the BE server itself, the application, and the backup data. Now, of course, we want you all to also have some type of inline, antivirus to help, because the backup is your last line of defense to be able to recover your data. And that is real important that you have. Now, we also have two-factor authentication that comes into play that allows you to validate who is actually logging on to the Backup Exec server. And again, if you guys are getting security attacks happening in that region, for your data protection, that's real important. Also GDPR Guard, which is our privacy regulations to make sure that if you decide to have a customer who wants to be forgotten, we can block all of that information from being restored with no problem. And of course, we help with payment card systems and encryption at flight, right? At rest and at flight. So security is a big thing for us, right? And we make it a big thing for you guys so you can keep your money and you can keep growing your business, right? And your revenue. So right now I'm going to pause and I'm going to see if we got a few questions before I go on to the cloud, okay? Because I think there's some things popping up in there. Let's see. Trudy, do you have a few questions for me?
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
One that actually relates to ransomware. We've had someone ask, do you actually have any customers who've used Backup Exec to recover from a ransomware attack?
Ah, that is great. Yes, we have. And matter of fact, we have it on the backupexec.com webpage and also the veritas.com webpage. So we have the United Way from Pearson County use Backup Exec to protect their environment. They were hit with a ransomware attack, right? And they never had to pay the ransom because they were able to recover their data within a few hours, all of their data. That was pretty slick, right? We also had a Habitat for Humanity that also did the same thing. So when it comes to recovering and helping with ransomware, Backup Exec is second to none to be able to do that. So great question. Okay.
Great. And we've got a second one that's come in, Brian, if that's okay. Can you tell us, where does BE fit with Net Backup with the cloud? Traditionally, they were separate products, with Net Backup usually selected by large enterprise organizations.
Correct. Right. So Net Backup being the enterprise, that's the big brother, right? Backup Exec is more the SMB and the mid-market solution. It's the little brother, but don't think that Backup Exec is not powerful. It can have a central management capabilities, just like Net Backup, where you can manage multiple Backup Exec servers, right? It's the resources that are being protected was different. So Net Backup protects like SAP, DB2, Mongo, those large database environments, right? Backup Exec, if you're more of a Windows environment, right? A Microsoft Windows environment, it's perfect, right? That's where we rely. We sit more in the Windows environment, plus the cost is much more cost effective for that region, right? There's more stuff out on our website that we can even send that can show you the differences between BE and Net Backup. But think about the resources they protect. Great question. Okay. All right, so what I'm gonna do, let me jump to cloud and we'll keep answering questions as we go throughout, but I wanna make sure I get through everything as much as possible. So everybody's dealing with the cloud because right now you guys are on WebEx, right? Our WebEx is sitting on the cloud, so everybody's touching it, right? So Backup Exec, yes, we work with the cloud very efficiently and seamlessly, right? And every release of Backup Exec, which happens about every 3 to 4 months, we add new certified cloud storages and vendors on our plate, right? Google Cloud from Seoul was just added, but we work with Azure Site Recovery, of course, AWS Glacier and Deep Archive, Azure Archive, and we even dedupe to the cloud. So we can save on that storage cost what you have with the cloud. But let's look a little bit more into how Backup Exec actually works with the cloud. Backup Exec can send data directly up into a cloud storage location with no problem. With just a few clicks, it's configured and you're off and running backups. You can also send your backup jobs to a local disk store and have it locally set with a retention for about 30 days. And then you can copy that backup set out to a cloud or another cloud or multiple clouds and have a longer term retention set on that data. Now, it's perfect when it comes to the 3-2-1 rule, which is one of the best rules when you're recovering from a ransomware attack or being prepared for that, where you have 3 backups of your data, 2 types of media, and 1 offsite, because that offsite does this. It helps you replace tape. Now, I don't know how many people out there are using tape on the call, but I know there are millions using them. But guess what? Millions also have problems with tape. Sometimes the tapes fail. Sometimes they can't recover the tape fast enough. But when you're working with cloud, the recovery is just as fast as just restoring it from a disk because it's always available with Backup Exec. Now, what if you have all of your workloads sitting in the cloud? You still got to back them up, right? Backup Exec can be deployed in the cloud to protect all of those workloads. But better, Backup Exec can use the cloud as a disaster recovery site for you as a customer. So your primary site, you're protecting all your workloads there. You can replicate all your data up into the cloud to another Backup Exec server. Yep. And if your primary site goes down, the cloud can be your pure DR site, and you can recover all your data quick and easy and efficient. I like that. Now, some folks might be using Azure Site Recovery. Azure Site Recovery does instant replication of virtual servers and applications from on-prem up into Azure Site Recovery. Backup Exec integrates directly with ASR to be able to manage, monitor, yep, and initiate replications and failovers to the cloud. So Backup Exec is the only product that integrates with that. So Microsoft understands the importance of protecting their environments, being able to see things. So they came to us to say, BE, integrate with ASR, help us out here. And that's what we're doing from that single console. Now, all this from the Backup Exec side is free, right? But you do have to pay your cloud vendor, right? Their storage costs and, for their deployments. But it's all secure and it in flight and at rest. So you have no problem and you're all safe and sound there. Okay. Also, we're available in Azure and the AWS Marketplace all the time. You could deploy them right there, even with the 60-day trial, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but you could do a trial right into the marketplace on any of your AWS and Azure. Okay. So I think there are a number of questions that actually have come in. So I'm
Yes,
gonna pause right
yes,
now
Brian.
and keep trying to get these questions in. So what do we have?
Yeah, so we've got, is the ransomware protection only in the latest released version, or is it also on earlier versions as well?
Great question. It is, we did the ransomware protection in the Backup Exec 20.4 release, right? So 20.4 was released, I'm going to say late last year. So that's when we put the ransomware protection in. And ransomware protection version 2 was just put in a 21 release. So that's what we have right now. Great question.
Okay, and we've got another one here. I assume BE is hardened, but is its vulnerability regularly tested?
Yes, it is. It's always tested. Matter of fact, we had someone do a blog, externally do a blog of a um, malware, and they basically said that Backup Exec was attacked, and everything in the data was, well, they basically said Backup Exec was attacked. The problem with it is Backup Exec was attacked, right? But none of the data was touched, which is one of the things what we wanted to what we want to happen. We don't want the data to be touched. Your backup data is protected. Now the server was hit and that went down, but that was actually before our 21 release where we blocked the injection coding. But we continue to always test our servers to make sure that they are protected and to make sure that your data is protected so you continue running your business. So we do test them all the time.
Okay. If we could have another one, Brian,
Let's get
what
one
are the
more.
key differences between V1 and V2 ransomware protection?
Okay, great. So V1 was where we blocked the data from being moved or modified on your disk storage. Okay, so just the disk storage was V1. Okay, version 2 is where we block injection coding on the BE server itself. That's what we did. Okay, and now they
And can
work
we,
hand in hand.
and Brian, just maybe one more, and then we'll proceed.
Okay.
Are the cloud servers in Australia as well?
Yes. So what we do is I honestly don't know a specific cloud vendor in Australia right off the top of my head, but I know we do have some because I know I've worked with a couple of partners that have already implemented and worked with some of those, like Dicker Data, I think had a cloud, so we work with them on that. But any compatible S3 cloud that's out there, Backup Exec works with it. That's the way we look at it. So if there's some that's homegrown or a private cloud that's set that has S3 compatibility, Backup Exec will integrate and work with that cloud with no problem. But great question. Sorry, I don't have that cloud vendor just right there in Australia. Okay. All right, so let me jump on and keep going when we look at some of the performance improvements that we have with Backup Exec. Um, so one of the things that we did was we upgraded our deduplication engine in Backup Exec to be the same deduplication engine that's in Net Backup. So that Backup Exec and Net Backup question came up. That was pretty slick, right? The enterprise version of dedupe is in the SMB and mid-market version of Backup Exec. So you're getting enterprise grade dedupe and security in Backup Exec, and that helps with performances. Now, the other thing that comes in is working with virtual environments, where we have our new accelerator feature that's our incremental forever, and the resilience, change track, and change block tracking to help with Hyper-V and VMware. So let's look a little bit into the virtual world of how Backup Exec works, because many people don't realize that Backup Exec has been protecting virtual servers since about 2002. It's a long time. We could do agent and agentless backups, and you could do single pass backups of these VMs and still get file recovery. And if you're using applications and databases, you can restore all the way down to the email message, right? And databases and objects within SharePoint. So it works very easy with that. And when you think about the incremental forever, that is our accelerator where you could do a full baseline of your complete virtual environment. And after that full, you could do incremental backups forever on, and you can recover from any of the incrementals and still get all of your recovery points that you want. And then when some people are saying, hey, I want to stand up a VM as fast as possible, right? That has been backed up, or I need to recover it. Our instant recovery allows for you to stand that VM up from our disk storage with no problem. And the recovery ready allows for you to manage, send codes and different things, command lines to test those VMs to make sure that data is valid and working properly. And then the instant cloud recovery is the piece that works with Azure Site Recovery. So the virtual store is pretty good, right? We've been doing it for a long time, very efficient and very fast. Now, when you think about the physical servers, we can convert those physical servers into virtuals. So if you have old hardware that you want to get rid of and you want to push it off somewhere, well, we can take that data and put it right on another virtual. We can also take those backups and also restore them to cloud images. So we can do all these things with Backup Exec the way it bundles and creates these backup jobs when we have bare metal hardware that's independent when it comes to disaster recovery. So it makes it very simple and secure when we look at virtual protection with Backup Exec. Now, I think I see some more questions that's popping in. I'm gonna jump in and see. Let's
Yes.
get one question. We get one question before we keep going because I want to. This is awesome. Good job.
Okay. Okay. Well, look, how does this compare to the new immutable backup features that have come out in Veeam version 10?
Right. So Veeam version 10, so being immutable means that you can't change the data. That's exactly what our ransomware resilience feature does. Nobody can touch or change that data except backup exec. Once that backup is sent to that disk storage, it doesn't change, not that backup. Now, even with our deduplication, what we do is we make modifications to new backups, but we can still use that data. So even though Veeam has their immutability that comes into play, I don't know how well it's been tested or how well it's been tried yet, but I know our product has been tried and tested with no problems. And not just the disk space, but also the server itself is also protected. So I think that's important when you think about that. Great question, though. Mhm. All right, I'm
And
gonna
another
keep
question?
rolling because I saw a question
Oh,
that came in that I probably will answer in a second. So let me jump in and I'm gonna ask more questions, okay? So when I think about the more, great questions, guys. vSphere 7. I think the question came was vSphere 7 supported, right? Yes, we had day one support for vSphere 7. Someone says, does it work with ESXi, the free version? No, right? You need to have that's the workstation version, I believe. So we work with our server versions for Backup Exec when it comes to that. Now we also make sure that we have the latest platform support for Windows. Also, you can see Red Hat, Oracle, and Linux, and all those things come into play. And then per instance license, something I'm gonna talk to about the licensing, but the VIM's call home feature was something that was very surprising to me because we had an assessment of customers who, for the first 30 days, work with Backup Exec, the new release. And they said this call home feature was very important because it allows them to automatically load their licensing in the Backup Exec without them having to go into the VIMS portal, which saves them a lot of time. So that's pretty slick when it comes to that. But let's look at our licensing real quick. Um, we're pushing for folks to use our bronze, silver, gold license that gives you more options within a given license option. So you could do this with subscription, you can get it with perpetual, you can have it forever. And then per instance, I'm gonna talk in a minute, but you can't mix them, but they work great when you put them out there and you put them in your system because you get more options. Now, if you look at per instance, what we talk about is it's all about how many servers that you're protecting. It's just one physical server, one virtual server, or a cloud machine. So you count up those servers on how many you want to protect. And then with the features that you want, that's where you determine if it's a bronze, silver, or gold. So here's an example. So customer A they want 3 backup exec servers in their environment. Mhm. They have 18 Windows clients and servers in their environment that they need to protect. And they also have some Linux servers or clients, they have about 6. So you add those up individually, that's 27. Now, this could be virtuals, right? Remember, this could be physicals, virtual, or even cloud. And all these can be managed from the one console. But with those 27 instances, you need 3 bundles of 10 that gives you 30, and that gives you 3 spare. Bronze, silver, gold is determined by what options you actually want to have. Like if you want to do SharePoint or Exchange, you go with our silver option. If you want to do the enterprise server option and manage multiple BE servers, then you go with the gold option. So it makes it simpler and it cost effective like you would not believe, right? Definitely go out and give Backup Exec a try, right? Easy download trial that you can have right off of backupexec.com. You get 60 days to play with all the features on it to see how well it works for you, see how efficient it is. And then once you decide that you want to buy it, I know you will, you can also get this new education offering where we have our new virtual Veritas lab. You get this for 6 months, and this is 300 USD dollars. So I'm putting it out there, right? This used to be $1,500 and more. Now this is $300. And you see self-paced labs, you can use the platform in your own environment, in a sandbox environment, and you get it for 6 months. And it is, self-paced, and it actually talks you through everything that you need to understand and learn about Backup Exec. That is a steal and it's pretty great and it's pretty awesome. So I would definitely advise for those folks that are looking, hey, don't bypass on education, even though Backup Exec is simple. There's still some things that you might want to learn, and this is an easy option to get it with that. So now I'm going to pause a little bit more for questions. And this has been great.
okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian. We've got
Mhm.
quite a few coming in.
Okay.
First one, can we get a bit more info on the accelerator for faster backups?
Right. So the BE Accelerator basically is for virtual environments. What that does is once you do a full backup of your virtual environment, your ESX servers, your Hyper-V servers, you protect those with one full backup. Within it, you can create what they call a stage incremental. Well, once you create your stage incremental, you don't have to run any more full backups anymore. Your incrementals can be the only jobs that you run forever. That's why it's called forever incremental. And then when you need to have a recovery point, you can recover from any of those incrementals without having to go all the way back and do a recovery from the full. And it allows you to recover whatever recovery points that you want to have. So the backup jobs are faster because all you got to do is incremental. And it also helps you save on space, especially when you're using the deduplication along with it. So great question.
Okay. Azure Site Recovery per instance, does that mean per server?
So Azure Site Recovery actually isn't counted as far as a backup. So that's the good part. So if you're integrating with Azure Site Recovery, you're not actually running a backup. You're managing and monitoring what's happening out there. So I haven't even heard that question before. That's awesome. So if Backup Exec is not actually doing a backup of that server, it's not counted as an instance. So great question on ASR.
Okay. Is the 2FA Duo push top compatible?
I think that's a two-factor authentication. I think they're talking about Duo. This version is not compatible with Duo right now, but we are looking to do more compatibilities and upgrades with the two-factor authentication because mostly it's for government agencies that we've first put this in place, but we're trying to get it more and more integrated with other applications. Great question.
Okay. And how does Backup Exec work on hybrid cloud?
So hybrid cloud or any cloud, let me just say any cloud, right? As long as Backup Exec can be installed on a Windows server that's sitting in any cloud environment you have, that works. We look at cloud as just another data center, right? That's really how we look at a cloud, right? That's really all it is. So if you have Backup Exec on premise, right, and you have a private cloud that you have, Backup Exec can protect that data in the private cloud. It could also protect the data that you have in Azure or AWS or Google or IBM or Hitachi. As long as we can access it through IPs and server names, we can protect that data. We can also move data to those locations as well as far as storage. So when we say hybrid cloud, it's just a mix of a public, a private, even governments. That's what we look at as hybrid clouds. All these are great questions.
Yeah, look, we've got plenty, Brian. Here's another. In terms of licensing, is this perpetual or subscription-based model?
It is both. So you get perpetual if you just want to have it for, all the time, right? And keep it forever. If you go with subscription, you get a lower cost because now for that subscription at the end of your term, right, you have to make sure you renew your subscription for the product to continue working and protecting your environment. So for any bronze, silver, or gold options, you get perpetual or subscription as your options. And you could do it based on front end terabytes, which is if you did a full pass of your environment, how much data was that? So let's say that was 10 terabytes of data. You can license it as a 10 terabyte front end database of bronze, silver, gold, or you can count the instances that you have. Like I just counted up to 27. You can count how many servers you want to protect, and you can go with that number, and it could be bronze, silver, gold, subscription, or perpetual, like that. That was a lot, right? But trust me, it once you start seeing it, it's a lot simpler to understand the licensing, where you just count how many you want to protect, or you count how much you want to protect. Another great questions. And I'm gonna just
Okay,
throw one
happy for a few
answer out
more,
real
or do
quick.
you want to keep going?
I'm gonna answer one
And,
question. ESX6 is supported like that. So we do have some back support for ESX6 in the product. So we are dropping support for a number of other versions. So I will say definitely check our support, our software compatibility list to verify that. I believe ESX6 is still supported right now. 5.5 is not though, but I think 6 is still supported. All right, so I want to jump in and continue because we got a few more minutes and I still have something for you guys and gals, right? So many people are lifting and shifting to Microsoft 365, aka Office 365, right? Well, there's some myths about all of those SaaS solutions. Office 365, G Suite, people are using G Suite, Salesforce.com, Dynamics 365, all these things are out there, but there's some myths anytime you have these applications in the cloud. There's one. The service provider provides data protection as part of the SaaS. That's just a myth. That's not true, right? What about this one? Backup type functionality is built into Office 365 already. That's not true. It's just the archive. That's just a holding environment. So there's no copy, right? And then myth three, SaaS applications are immune to cyber attacks, ransomware, malware, and so forth. That's definitely not true, right? I haven't touched a major SaaS platform that has not had some type of attack, some type of failure, right? Where they've had issues. So you got to be careful when you're thinking that you have your stuff backed up just because it's in the cloud. It's not. So look at the service provider versus the customer here in this view. Everything that's in blue is what you as the cloud customer is responsible for. And everything that's in gray, a little stormy, is what the cloud provider. And this makes it even simpler. You are responsible for administering your data and your users, right? Now remember, your data and your users and all of that, that's your revenue. That's your revenue. Microsoft is responsible just for the platform, application, hardware, network, operating system, and all of that stuff. They're not worried about your data. So they're not worried about your revenue, but you should be. So when you're using Office 365 and all these other solutions, all the modules in Office 365 need to be protected. And since Veritas is the number one in the market on the planet when it comes to data protection, we have a solution that can help you. It's called SaaS Backup. Very simple and streamlined and completely cloud hosted environment to protect all the modules of Office 365. It can be set up in just a few minutes. It has automated backups, and these are snapshots that happen, right? Multiple restore options, meaning you can even restore an email message or one file or file revisions throughout the process. And the best part about it is unlimited storage and unlimited retention as long as you're paying your subscription. Now, just to give you a little bit more how it enhances Office 365, O365 doesn't make a second copy. VSB does create a separate copy and it puts it on another infrastructure. So it's not on Microsoft's platform, it's on a Veritas platform that we have that we're utilizing. You can also see that once you delete data in Office 365, Microsoft controls how long you can actually get it back, right? 14 days for Exchange, 93 days for OneDrive and SharePoint. Well, VSB, you as the customer get to control how long you want to keep your data. Microsoft is no longer in control of your data because we're copying it all out to another location and you get to control that. A litigation hold is not a practical backup. It's just holding the data in the same place or their archive location, which is still not a separate infrastructure. VSB is built for backup and recovery, not just the retention. And then their restores are limited. I don't know if anyone has ever tried to restore from Office 365 a data that has been deleted that's still available. It takes a while. It doesn't take a while for our product. You can do advanced search, point in time restores, and those people that are inactive users, you don't have to pay, but you do have to pay for inactive users if you're going through Microsoft alone. So we help you save costs, but help you continue growing your revenue when you're using SaaS Backup for Office 365 or other SaaS workloads. Now, SaaS Backup also has a trial. You could take everything from me, but definitely go test it out and try it and see how it all works for you, right? I think that's the great thing about it. Now, in the conclusion, I think I'm rolling good on time. In the conclusion, you have to think about some things. The overall capabilities of Backup Exec, second to none. It allows you to streamline your data protection for your physical, virtual, and cloud environments and help simplify your recoveries just like that. The protection against ransomware by being able to lock down the disk store as well as protect the Backup Exec server from injection coding is great. Helps you not have to pay if you're hit with a ransomware attack on your data. And then the virtual capabilities, if you're using VMware or Hyper-V, Backup Exec makes it simple for you to protect all that data as well as recover and restore that data easily whenever you need it. And then our easy integration with cloud. So if you guys are thinking about cloud, using cloud, need to protect your data in the cloud, Backup Exec is a simple choice for you in that realm. And then the simple way that Office 365 and SaaS workloads work together. Now, here's the other trigger part that you have. Backup Exec can see the reporting that happens in SaaS Backup so they can integrate together. Yeah, that's what we do. Backup Exec, SaaS Backup, great solutions. Now, what they do is they help reduce the cost of complexity. They help you manage your business risks. Backup Exec has been around for 30 plus years, so you can trust it is going to work and protect the environments that we say it will. And it prepares you for the future because you, as a customer, if you want something in Backup Exec, you just have to ask us. That's how we put Unix back in the Backup Exec. As long as it's making sense for a global number of customers, we put it in there because we want to make sure it's going to work for everyone. Now, for me to you, I think that's a great conclusion, and I'm gonna open it back up for the last few questions that we can have today.
Wow. Okay, Brian. So we've still got a few.
Okay.
Here's one. So are you ending tape support?
No, we are not. Tape support is too vital for our backup exec to pull out. Well, matter of fact, we still are qualifying even new tape devices that are coming out. So we do not plan to end support for tape drives.
Okay. Now here's one. Backup can be done to AWS storage. However, what
Yes.
would be a disaster recovery procedure to get a bare metal system back as there's no access to the VM backend? Can we
So
set up a basic OS and then restore the backup exec file over?
yes, that's exactly how you do it. Yep. Especially if you're in AWS and you're protecting that environment. Backup exec does not create a cloud image to restore. All of the bare metal restore capabilities in backup exec means that I take a full backup of this server and I do a restore to another server that's already up and online, and it works fine. Now, the virtual conversions allow you to convert those to VMDKs, VHDKs, to those things to work with ESX and Hyper-V. So that was a great question. Hmm.
Okay. Can backup exec backup Nutanix DHD based backup? That is not client based.
I'm sorry, repeat that one again.
Okay, so this is around Nutanix. Can backup
Lieutenants. Okay.
exec
Uh-huh.
backup Nutanix VHD based backup? That is not client based.
Right. So you're talking the Acropolis piece that comes into play. So backup exec, we do not have integration with Acropolis to protect Nutanix virtual servers. However, you can protect them as individual servers with no problem. But the good part is customers have asked, just as I was saying, if you ask, we'll bring it to you. We do plan to have that support later on this year in backup exec, in a later backup exec release. So hold tight, it's coming.
Okay. Is there a way to back up and restore Lotus notes?
Um, Not with the current release of Backup Exec. We stopped supporting Lotus Notes, I want to say in BE 16, is it the 16 or 15? Um, so the 21 release will not support Lotus Notes. We consider that more of a larger database that's platform that's come up, so we allow Net Backup to continue to support that. Now, again, older versions of Backup Exec support it, but those versions aren't even supported anymore to protect it. So, but the more people ask for it, we possibly could be supporting in a year or so.
Okay. And now this relates to Office 365.
Okay.
Do all active users in an Office 365 tenant need to have a SaaS license in order to back up to SharePoint, Teams, Document Library?
Ah, SharePoint, yes. That is one of the things that we have with our SaaS solution is all the active users in SharePoint will be utilized and counted for licensing. All right. If you were just doing more email or OneDrive in that fashion, then you can specify different accounts that you want to be protecting. But if everybody's using SharePoint, it's going to go in and utilize all the accounts for SharePoint. So you have to have all of them active.
Okay. Can Backup Exec 21 work with devices that have McAfee EPO device encryption?
So is that's probably antivirus, I believe. So one of the things that comes into play is I know some applications may throw up alerts that say, hey, this application is not secure or whatnot. We don't interfere with any of the security pieces or any of the applications. So even if it says, allow backup exec to access and still go through. So most of the antivirus, encryption and protection pieces that are on the file level, backup exec works with those with no problem. And I'm loving these
Okay.
questions.
Okay. Now, I hope I'm reading this one correctly.
Okay.
Is GDPR guard per server being backed up, or is it more granular? E.g.,
So
if there are multiple user directories in share, can just one user's data be exposed?
right. So our GDPR guard, what it does is that's part of it. What I'm gonna say, you have to do some command line things for GDPR guard. And what it does is whatever command line that you're doing and you're asking it to block, say my information per se, right? We go in and we find the metadata that's already in our catalogs or the data that we already have backed up. Okay, we find that metadata and we block any of that metadata or any of the files that have that metadata from being restored. Now, you can also turn it back on if you want, right? But most of the time, once you turn it off, when you go in and you try to do a recovery of somebody's data that's sitting there, you won't actually even be able to see it in the recovery window. So we totally block out that data from being restored. Now, it does not affect other people's data, but it will affect their data from being restored. That was a great question.
Are you happy to keep going with a couple more, Brian?
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I know it's late for me, but I'm good. I'm wide awake right now. So,
How does SaaS Backup differ from the Veeam solution?
so, so I know Veeam used to have it where they had to move their data to on-premise location, and I believe now they could do it to certain cloud locations. Our solution is completely hosted. Right? There's nothing on-prem. I think with Veeam, you had to have something on-prem before. I believe their new release, you don't have to have that. But for us, we were ahead of the game, completely hosted. There's nothing that you need, and we protect all of the modules. They haven't been protecting all of the modules. So with all the stuff in Teams, all the stuff in SharePoint, SaaS Backup protects more than any other solution out there when it comes to protecting Office 365 and even Salesforce and Google Suites. So,
Okay. And is there a minimum number of users for the SaaS Backup subscription?
I believe the minimum is five. I think it's five. I think it's five that they have to buy. Yeah.
Okay. And will SaaS Backup for Office 365 also back up the audit and security logs?
Oh, that is a good question, and I'm gonna be honest, and I don't know. Uh, if it, as far as I know, all of the modules that are sitting in the user accesses for Office 365 are what's protected. We do have audit logs within SaaS Backup, but I don't know about the audit logs in Office 365. I'm gonna take a note on that. Thank you for that question. Audit and security logs, right?
Now,
Good deal.
here's an interesting one. Most
Sure.
people these days have multiple deployments of Office 365, in-house, VM, hybrid cloud deployments, etc. Why isn't there a single product that includes all of these? This is the new normal. Maybe call it one SME backup exec?
Great question. And me too. I've been wanting that one product to be able to protect all of these things in just one UI, right? I think that the reason that we have multiple products was to make sure that we were there to market, to make sure we had a solution for customers as fast as possible. That was one of the reasons we did not integrate it in Backup Exec is because it was going to take longer to get a solution out to protect customers. Now, there are more than, I want to say 200, it's probably about 250 million active users in Office 365 right now, right? And most of those aren't protected. right? But a lot of those are protected by our solution right now because we got our solution out there to the market very quickly, as well as Microsoft even put a stamp on that thing as well, for the solution being available so quick. Yep. So
And last,
hopefully one day we can get everything together, right?
yeah, last few questions here. Does the
Okay.
SaaS solution back up Microsoft Teams?
Yes, yes. So when I say all the modules, all the data modules that are in the Office 365 are completely backed up with SaaS Backup. And that's where we beat a few of the other vendors because they don't do all of the teams. They may not do all of SharePoint. We can do all of those modules with no problem.
Okay. And do all active users in an Office 365 tenant without SharePoint or Teams enabled need to have a SaaS license in order to back up the tenant SharePoint Teams document libraries?
So, yes, so if you're going to touch SharePoint or Teams, right, then it's going to require all the active users. But if you're not going to touch SharePoint or Teams and you just want OneDrive, you just want email, right? Then you can specify which accounts that you want to have in that environment. So we know some people are still, Teams is great, right? It's out there. And the reason everybody has to be protected because it allows for everybody to share all of their data, right? And we want to make sure that everything gets shared without any data getting lost. So we have to authorize and activate all of the accounts that are in SharePoint.
And this is more of a comment, I guess.
Okay.
For your information, Salesforce announced recently that it's retiring its data recovery service from July 31st.
Yeah,
So even more important to have a SaaS backup and recovery DR solution.
that's
But never
right. And
before.
just so you know, Brian said so. He agrees. That's right. That is true. They announced that they won't have a backup, so definitely think about SaaS backup to protect that Salesforce data.
Okay. And look, we're coming to the end of our questions, but what
All
does
right.
the integration with ASR provide?
So ASR is doing all the work. ASR is basically saying replicate this VM up to this cloud, replicate this VM up to this cloud. It's doing that actively, right? What Backup Exec does is Backup Exec comes and gives you a view into that. We're not doing anything specific, but we're giving you a view. But in that view, you can manage it. I mean, you can stop replications. You can initiate those. You can also tell it to fail over by testing it. So you can do the test of the failover, those things. You can also do failbacks. So what it does, it sends all the commands up to ASR to do all the work, but you can do them right from the Backup Exec UI. I think that's the Penguins of Madagascar. They used to do that, right? Yeah, something like that. Great question though. All right.
All right.
What was Matt? So I do see someone in chat. So Matt Roy has a question. Make sure I get his question. Let me see. Question. Boy, hold on. All right. All right. I think I see his question in the chat. Let me make sure. Initial seeding time and then read and write rates. Transfer speed, can you share more on those for SaaS backup? Okay, for Office 365, I believe that's what we're looking for. So when SaaS backup, when we first configure SaaS backup to start protecting Office 365 data, your first backup is going to take a while. Now, I don't mean like, a week, but it's going to take a number of hours because it's going to take all of that data from Office 365 and move it across the cloud over into, put in my video, over into our data centers. So that first backup is going to take a while to happen. And you can't like precede it, like take a backup here and then go and restore it here. We're moving that data live, right? Moving that data. Now, once that data is there, then everything else that we're moving is snapshot changes. Boom, just snapshot changes. So it'll take a little bit to get the SaaS backups running, but immediately once the connection goes, they start running just like that. And it does not affect your performance in Office 365, which is the better part, like that. So I think I got Matt's question. There you go. There we go. All right, I'm gonna get a thumbs up, Matt. So that was cool. Uh, let's see. So I think we are probably at the top of the hour. I hope I answered all of the questions and everything. You guys and
We
gals
do
have
have a
some
record
awesome
of all the
questions.
questions that have been sent in as well. So any that was missed, we can directly come back to you.
Sorry about that. We sound like we got a thunderstorm out there. I got to be prepared and safe. Okay. What was the last statement there, Trudy? I'm sorry. I was dodging thunderstorms.
That's okay. So I was just telling everyone, if we haven't got to your question, if we've missed it, we do have a record of all these questions, and then we'll directly come back to you on email.
Yep. And definitely take action today, folks. I mean, if you have not tried Backup Exec or SaaS Backup, definitely go to the Veritas.com website. Give it a try, right? It's real simple, straight to the point to be able to protect your environments so you guys and gals can continue growing your revenue. That's right. Remember that money that you want to have. You want to continue growing that revenue. And here's some of the names and numbers that you can contact for any help that you guys and gals need. And I do personally want to thank you guys for making me feel right at home, even though I am home, right, with all the questions and participation that you guys and gals had. So this has been awesome. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, everyone. And we're going to be sending this recording out to you very soon via email. So thank you again for joining.
All right, folks, take care. Be cool.